On his 60th birthday, my son refused to pay the bill and told me I wasn't worth his time. I just got up and left. 5 minutes later, the police arrested him for possession of a stolen car. His world falls apart. My name is Arthur Finch, and I'm a man of 60 years. For most of my life, I've prided myself on my patience. I was a structural engineer, a man who built things to last, who understood that a strong foundation was everything. I built my career from the ground up, brick by brick, and I thought I had done the same for my family. My son Mark was my only child. I loved him more than life itself, and I dedicated everything to giving him the best. When he was a boy, I worked 2 jobs to put him through private school. I paid for his college, for his first apartment, and even bought his first car, a brand new sedan that I scrimped and saved for, just so he could start his life without debt. I was the rock, the provider, the ever-present safety net. But rocks can be taken for granted. Safety nets can be seen as free hammocks. Over the past few years, Mark had transformed from a grateful son into a self-entitled stranger. He no longer saw me as a father, but as a resource, a human ATM with a pulse. My pension, the house I had worked my entire life for, my car, they were all, in his mind, just future assets, waiting to be liquidated for his benefit. My own existence was a minor inconvenience, a final hurdle between him and what he felt was his birthright. His wife, Jessica, was even worse. She was a master manipulator, always whispering in his ear, pushing him to ask for more. She saw me as nothing more than a frail old man to be managed, a burden on their busy, important lives. The day it all changed was my 60th birthday. I had hoped for a simple celebration, maybe a quiet dinner with Mark, Jessica, and my 2 beautiful grandchildren, whom I cherished more than anything. I had planned a modest dinner at a small Italian restaurant near my home. I had already paid for it in advance, wanting to spare them the trouble, but Mark insisted on handling the bill, claiming it was his treat. He said it was the least he could do for his loving father. I should have known better. The evening started pleasantly enough. We talked, we laughed, but as the night wore on, the facade began to crack. Mark kept checking his phone, fidgeting with his watch and sighing loudly. Jessica made pointed comments about the cost of the meal, despite knowing I had already covered it. They were trying to make me feel like I was a burden, that my very existence was a drain on their resources. The climax of their cruelty came at the end of the meal. The waiter brought the check to our table. I made a move to grab it, but Mark waved him away with a condescending smirk. No, he said. I've got it. He then pulled out his wallet, a thin leather thing I had bought him years ago, and sighed theatrically. Oh no, I seem to have forgotten my credit card at home. Dad, can you get this? This wasn't a mistake, it was a test. A calculated move to see how much I would bend. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the anger bubbling inside me. Mark, I said, my voice steady. I told you I already paid for the dinner. Don't be ridiculous, Dad. I'm the one who insisted we come to this expensive place. It's on you. You're the one with the retirement fund, after all. He has a point, Arthur. We have our own expenses, you know. Private school for the kids, car payments, the mortgage. We can't be paying for everything. My patience, the one thing I had always been so proud of, finally snapped. This wasn't about the money. This was about respect. It was about being seen as a person, not a disposable wallet. My heart, which I had always worn on my sleeve for them, felt like a lump of lead in my chest. I placed my hands on the table, took a deep breath, and stood up slowly. Mark and Jessica exchanged a knowing look as if they had won. Fine, I said, my voice now a low, dangerous rumble. I'll pay the bill. I pulled out my wallet, a tattered, worn thing I'd had for decades, and placed a crisp $50 bill on the table. This is for you, son, I said, my eyes fixed on his. A final payment for all your troubles. He looked at me, confused, as if a switch had been flipped in my brain. What? He said, a note of panic in his voice. I don't understand. You will, I whispered before turning and walking away. As I stepped out of the restaurant, I heard Mark's frantic shouts behind me. Dad, where are you going? You can't leave me here. I don't have my wallet. I walked on, the sounds of his desperation fading into the evening air. 5 minutes later, as I was walking toward my car, I saw 2 police cruisers pull up to the restaurant. I heard the frantic wail of their sirens and the excited chatter of the diners on the street. I didn't turn back. I knew what was happening. I had placed a call to the police dispatcher 5 minutes before I walked out of the restaurant. I had given them my son's name, his license plate number, and his exact location. I'd like to report a stolen vehicle, I had said, my voice calm and composed. A brand new black sedan, license plate number. I had given them the numbers that I had memorized over the past few days. It's a car my son recently stole from me. He's at the corner of Main and Elm. at the Italian restaurant in the parking lot. He's driving a black sedan with my license plate on it. I'd appreciate it if you could investigate. I had hung up before they could ask any more questions. I knew that car, my car, was the one he had stolen. He had taken it without my permission a week earlier, claiming he needed to borrow it for a business trip. He had been driving it ever since, claiming it was his, and I had been waiting for the right moment to act. I knew that he wouldn't be able to produce any ownership documents as the car was still legally in my name. As I drove away, I saw the flashing lights of the police cars surrounding my son. I saw the look of utter disbelief on his face as the officers put him in handcuffs and led him to the back of their cruiser. The look of utter devastation in his eyes as he saw me drive away. A silent witness to his downfall. He had taken everything from me. My trust, my love, my money. But he had forgotten one thing. He had forgotten that a man who builds things knows how to tear them down. His world came crashing down. And I, for the first time in a very long time, felt a sense of peace. The journey of my revenge had just begun. The car incident was just a preview. The main event was yet to come. The day after the birthday dinner, Mark was released on bail, furious and bewildered. He called me, his voice a mix of rage and disbelief. "Dad, what did you do?" "They said you reported my car stolen. You have to fix this. I could go to jail." "Your car, Mark?" I asked, my voice calm. "That's not your car. It's mine, and you took it without my permission. That's grand theft auto, son. That's a felony." But you gave it to me. You told me it was mine." "There's a difference. And if you had just asked, I would have been happy to lend it to you. But you didn't. You just took it." "You're acting crazy. This is all because of some stupid dinner bill." "This is all because you don't know the difference between a loving father and a wallet. This is about respect, something you haven't shown me in a very long time. And now you're going to learn what happens when you disrespect a man who built his life with his own two hands." That call was the last time he would hear my voice for a long time. The next few weeks were a blur of phone calls and text messages from him, from Jessica, from my ex-wife, all of them pleading, demanding, and threatening. I ignored them all. I was a man on a mission, and that mission was to reclaim what was mine. My plan was simple, meticulous, and legally airtight. It wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. My first step was to change my will. For years, Mark had been a co-beneficiary with my ex-wife. Now, I changed the will to leave everything to a charity for abandoned children. My house, my investments, my pension, everything would go to the charity. I had also set up a trust for my grandchildren, with the condition that they would receive the funds only when they turned 21, and only if they demonstrated a genuine desire to give back to society. The trust would be managed by a trusted lawyer, a man who had known me for years and whom I trusted implicitly. He had a strong sense of right and wrong, and he would ensure that the money was used for the good of the children, and not for their parents' greedy hands. My second step was to cut off all financial support. For years, I had been paying for Mark's mortgage, his car payments, his credit card bills, and even his children's tuition. It was a silent agreement between us. He would take care of me in my old age, and I would take care of him financially. But that was all over now. I called his mortgage company, his credit card companies, and the private school his children attended. I told them that I would no longer be making any payments on his behalf. I also contacted his bank and canceled all the automatic payments to his credit cards. He would have to pay for his own life from now on. My third and final step was to sell my house. It was a beautiful 2-story house with a sprawling yard and a large garage. Mark had always considered it his future home. He had told me countless times that he would move in after I was gone, and that he would turn it into a mansion. I had even heard him tell Jessica that he would have the house renovated and that he would sell it for a huge profit. He had already begun to make plans to sell some of the furniture I had spent a lifetime collecting. I had no intention of letting that happen. I put the house on the market, and within a week I had a buyer. The buyer, a young couple, was eager to move in. We closed the deal in record time. I sold all my possessions, including my car, and began living out of a small rented apartment. The money from the sale of the house, along with my savings, was all I had left, but it was enough. It was more than enough. For a few weeks, Mark and Jessica were in a state of shock. They couldn't understand what was happening. They called, they pleaded, they threatened. They even came to my apartment demanding to know where I had put the money. I just looked at them with a calm smile and told them that they were too late. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice full of false pity. "I'm a simple man. I live a simple life. I don't have much. And what little I have, I'm going to spend on myself." They stormed out of my apartment shouting and screaming. I just sat on my couch sipping a cup of tea, a sense of peace settling over me. They were finally seeing the true me. The man they had underestimated for so long. The man who had built a life from nothing, and who was not afraid to tear it down and start over. I knew they would be back. And I knew that when they did, I would be ready for them. The day of the reckoning came sooner than I expected. Mark and Jessica had been trying to get a hold of me for weeks, but I ignored all their calls. They finally showed up at my new apartment unannounced, their faces a mask of fury. "Where is it, old man?" Mark demanded, pushing past me into the living room. "Where's the money from the house and the will?" "We know you changed it. We saw the documents. Why did you do this to us?" "We know you're hiding something. The will is gone. The money is gone. You've ruined us. I've paid your mortgage, your car payments, your credit card bills, and your children's tuition for years. I've been your piggy bank, your personal ATM, your all-you-can-eat buffet, and you have the audacity to come into my home and tell me that I've ruined you? I didn't ruin you. You ruined yourselves." The quiet, docile old man they knew was gone, replaced by a man with a fire in his eyes. We can fix this, Dad," Mark stammered. "We can go back to how things were. We can be a family again." "We can't," I said, my voice calm again. "You don't want a family. You want an inheritance. You don't want a father. You want a bank account, and I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm all out of money. I'm all out of patience. I'm all out of everything." They couldn't believe that the man they had treated like a doormat was capable of this. They couldn't believe that I was no longer a resource, but a force to be reckoned with. But what about the kids?" Jessica said, her voice a desperate whisper. "They're going to be so disappointed in you, Arthur. They're going to know what you did. I did this for them so they wouldn't have to grow up to be like you two. I did this so they would know the value of hard work, of respect, and of dignity. I did this so they would never be a burden on anyone else. They had lost the inheritance, the house, the car, the easy life they had always assumed was their right. They had lost everything, and they had no one to blame but themselves. I never saw them again. I moved to a small, quiet town where I spent my days volunteering at a local charity and my evenings reading a book by the fireplace. My money was gone, but my dignity was back. My house was gone, but my freedom was back. My son was gone, but my peace was back. I had built a new life, a new foundation, a new beginning. I had learned that some things are worth more than money, more than possessions, more than anything. And for the first time in a very long time, I was happy. I was finally free.